Oh my God. So good evening, Council. Good evening, staff, and welcome to the Wednesday, January 12th virtual meeting of Council. And with starting or calling to order, I will start with the welcome and Council commitment. So, Council commitment for the town of Penetanguishene. We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed on Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace that we enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good government. May our decisions as members of Council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be granted the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good laws and wise decisions. Thank you. And now we will go on to the approval of the agenda, and for the regular council agenda of January 12, 2022, that the agenda of the regular council meeting of January 12, 2022 be approved as presented. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor LaRose and Councillor Cummings. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Now, I might point out this evening also that we have two members of council missing. Councillor Levy is away on vacation, and Councillor Clue had her booster today and is having a little side effects from it. So hopefully everything goes well with her. If you have a declaration of pecuniary interest, you may so do now or at the appropriate time. There are no public meetings tonight. The deputations and presentations, there are none. Adoption of minutes not already confirmed, that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. Council meeting minutes of December 8, 2021. Mover, seconder. Councillor Mayat and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Consent agenda, there's none. Matters for consideration. The verbal update from the Chief Administrative Officer re COVID-19 municipal impacts. Mr. CAO, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to this item, as I've done now for several months throughout the pandemic, I did want to just provide a little bit of a brief update for members of council as well as members of the community, dating back to the last monthly update at the beginning of December and our last regular council meeting. So over the last 4 weeks, which for some may feel like much more than just 4 weeks, there's been several changes announced by the province. On December 31st, the province updated several public health measures as well as guidance in response to the new variant of concern, Omicron. So they really what they did, and I won't walk through everything in depth, but really what they did is they updated the testing as well as isolation guidelines and really made it more, more stringent, I guess, like you could say, based on the evolving Omicron variant. In addition, on January 3rd, the province announced, on Monday, January 3rd, the province announced that the province was going to move to a modified step 2 of the roadmap to reopen. Really, the province, we were there at one point, so there was a lot of similarities, and I'll just highlight a few that really affect, municipal operations. And certainly there were many more measures, but the ones I'm going to list, I wanted to highlight kind of the key ones. Limiting gatherings outdoors to 10 and indoors to 5, requiring businesses and organizations to ensure that employees work remotely where they can, lifting capacity at indoor weddings, funerals, and religious services, rites, and ceremonies to 50%, and then outdoor services are limited to the number of people that can maintain 2 meters of physical distance. Closing indoor meeting and event spaces with limited exceptions. Public libraries limited to 50% capacity. And all publicly funded and private schools moving to remote learning starting January 5th until at least January 17th. Further to that, just a couple of days ago, there was, I'm sure everyone recalls, but there was a pretty substantial media blitz that the province did confirm that students would be returning in classroom in person beginning January 17th. In addition to all those that I touched on, there were a number of impacts to gyms and restaurants, which I think everyone is aware of, and certainly we are feeling for those businesses affected. In addition, on January the 7th, January 7th, the province did announce additional support for small businesses, workers, and families. It was a $10,000 grant for eligible businesses that are affected by the closures. And predominantly it touched on electricity rate relief for those businesses and/or families or workers that are spending more time at home. In addition to that, Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit has provided a few updates that I want to touch on. They expanded their eligibility for booster doses to reach more of the population. So it included 40 years of age or older, education staff, including educators, custodial staff, administrative staff, and others, as well as those with the highest risk health conditions that have not yet received their booster. In addition to that, to accommodate those changes, they also expanded the number of vaccination clinics across the Simcoe Muskoka region. From a municipal standpoint, as everyone will recall, we've had a number of impacts as a result of the recent announcements. The arena is now closed to the public. The museum is now closed to the public. Administration staff, as well as outdoor staff in a modified form, have reverted back to our teams and cohort model, essentially working alternating days in office. All administrative facilities are operating by appointment only, with closures from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock for the lunch hour. And last but not least, Winterama, certainly planning is rigorously underway, but certainly we will be transitioning that to a similar model to that of which was delivered last year, which is primarily virtual with some in-person activities, but that will be strategic based on proper protocols, location, and distancing being in place. And the last item I want to touch on is just with respect to Simcoe Muskoka vaccination numbers. Over 80% of our residents in Simcoe Muskoka, 12 years of age or older, have received at least 1 dose, and certainly more than 75% have received their 2nd dose. So we will look to report on 3rd dose numbers as we move forward based on data from Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. And just as always, our control group continues to meet. We have reverted back to bi-weekly meetings from monthly meetings for the time being, and we continue to maintain that in a virtual forum as we have over the last 22 months, I'm going to say. Hopefully my number is right. And certainly we will continue to keep council apprised of any significant or material changes. And I'd be happy, Your Worship, to take any questions or comments from members.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Members of council, does anyone have any questions or concerns through? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question. Is there any particular reason why the library wasn't included in that mix?
Thank you. Thank you, through Your Worship, to Councillor Cummings. And no particular reason, other than I haven't typically reported on what the library is doing. But certainly I will look to do that moving forward. What I would say is, I know that the library has transitioned over the last several months. I do believe they're continuing to operate in-person services, whereas some other libraries have not. But it's a great point, Councillor Cummings. I will look to include that moving forward.
Thank you. It's just kind of strange because all our neighboring municipalities have all their libraries closed, period. for the time being. So I was just wondering why ours is still open.
Okay, Councilor Wedemarker, you had a question?
I'll defer your worship to Councillor Sanama. I believe she was going to respond to the question.
Okay, so Councillor Sanama.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Worship. In response to your question, Councillor Cummings, the library board, the library CEO did send a questionnaire kind of through to the board, and the majority of the board felt that the safety protocols that we have in place at the library is not putting any of our staff at risk, and that as a service to our residents, it was important to stay open, and that was they have gone to a Teams approach as well at the library. So, and they reduced their hours. Their hours open to the public have been reduced somewhat, not a lot, but a little bit, so that they can accommodate the Teams approach and also do a good job. So, we believe that it was the right thing to do.
Thank you. So that then I guess Councillor Cummings is Councillor Wedemarker, you have your card up.
Yeah, thank you. So Councillor Sanama outlined the reasons, and in the legislation or the regulation that was passed, libraries were permitted to stay open up to 50% capacity. And a number of people use library services to print off their QR code, the paper copy, because they're not able to use a smartphone. So having access to a computer and a printer allows them to print off that QR code, which is a requirement now for a lot of places as of January 4th. So that was another factor as well. I just want to make a comment and then I have a question. My comment is I disagree with the decision to close our customer service counter at Town Hall. I think it's our staff are well protected with respect to, pardon me for the dogs in the background. Our staff are well protected with the barricades. We offer an essential service to our residents. And I think that similar to other essential services, we should have remained open. My question has to do with business continuity. With the Omicron variant being highly transmissible, it can affect staff, and staff could be off potentially up to 5 days or 10 days, depending if it's an exposure or an illness. And I'm just wondering what steps as a municipality we've taken to ensure that business continuity continues with our critical services such as fire, water, some of our other agencies that do business for the town, to ensure that business can continue. Thank you.
CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good question, Councillor Wedemarker. I appreciate getting asked the question. I would say there's a number of things that as an organization we do, and I certainly, with a little more time to prepare, I'd be happy to report back to council with a little more in depth. But certainly off the cuff, I'm happy to say that our control group has talked about this on virtually every meeting. But certainly things that we have done to put as much protection in place, aside from the physical barriers and protocols and procedures. I would say that we've split ourselves into the Teams model, for example. I know some municipalities have not done that, so we've split ourselves into the Teams model to mitigate risk of wiping out an entire department. We believe firmly that that's a great step in mitigating that risk of wiping out a large department, and certainly we've seen impacts to other municipalities as a result of COVID. I would say the other thing that we've done is had conversation and discussion internally, as well as with our friends at Public Health, about how we might be able to put protocols in place depending on the particular department that might be affected or the staff in a respective department that might be affected. We've sought advice and guidance from public health around how we might be able to have staff work that maybe are symptomatic, have symptoms but are required to isolate by the regulation. But have them, work and perform services to continue service to the community in certain capacities. So I'll use a plow operator, for example. We've sought some advice and are getting guidance from public health around how we might be able to, have a plow operator that under the legislation is required to isolate, but perhaps maybe with proper protocols in place, we can have that operator work alone in a plow and continue to provide service delivery. I would say the other thing that we've done and continually assess is our ability to continue to provide services remotely. I think we proved last year that we certainly can provide a high level of service delivery and service excellence to the community in a remote fashion. So I'm very confident that, should we have large impacts to a department, for example, that we could at any given point in time, if we were required to do so, given we are a small organization and we have many small departments, I'm very confident that we could shut a department down, from an in-person perspective and provide those services remotely by having our department staff work outside of town hall or outside of other municipal facilities. Those are some knee-jerk components, but I would appreciate the opportunity to maybe put something together for council. But certainly, I think those are some key pieces that hopefully answer your question, Councillor Vatabancourt. Your Worship, if I might just touch on Councillor Vatabancourt's first point, and that is that we continue to be open. I want to be clear that we're not closed. We are open. We've identified that we are open by appointment only. I'm very confident and can say this with a high degree of accuracy that if we've turned anyone away, it's simply because we've had back-to-back appointments and simply haven't been able to accommodate folks. But I would say 99 out of 100 cases, should folks not have an appointment booked, we've accommodated them on the spot. So certainly, we've done this, and control group didn't take the decision lightly. But certainly we looked at what public health was recommending as well as what other municipalities were doing and felt this was an opportunity to mitigate risk, not only to our staff, but also to the community. So just to reiterate, we are open, we're not closed. We continue to encourage to a high degree that folks make appointments. If folks don't have appointments, we will accommodate them as best as we can. And Your Worship, I hopefully that answers Councillor Vatabancourt's question. I'd be happy to take any others if anyone has any.
Okay. Members of council, any other member of council have any questions, concerns? No, that is good. Then thank you, Mr. CAO. We will move on to B, which is the museum operating hours.
Sorry to interrupt, Your Worship. We do have a motion just to accept that for information.
For the verbal, okay. So mover and the seconder, Councillor Mayat and Councillor Saint-Amand, all in favor? Okay, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, museum operating hours, RCS 2022-02, that the Penetanguishene Centennial Museum and Archives change their off-season operating hours to Monday to Friday as outlined under option 1. A mover and a seconder, Councillor Cummings and Deputy Mayor. Okay, and before I call, I will ask if there's anyone who has any questions or concerns. Okay, there being none, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to C, Advisory Committee appointment, that Council approves Mayor LaRue's appointment of Joshua Warner to the Transit Committee for the remainder of the Council term. A mover and a seconder. Councillor LaRose, Councillor Mayat. Questions, concerns? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We will now move on to 11, presentation and consideration of report, Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole report, December 8, 2021. That the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Recreation and Community Services section be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Cummings, Deputy Mayor. Any questions, concerns? Does anyone wish to have anything pulled? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to the recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Planning and Development Services section be approved. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Budiboncoeur and Councillor Mayat. And does anyone have anything to pull, or Councillor Budiboncoeur?
Thank you, Worship. Not to pull, just a comment with respect to the director's report dealing with short-term rentals. I just want to make the comment that as part of her review, I think it's very important to keep in mind the planning, the land use planning implications. Her report dealt primarily with licensing, but there's land use planning implications as well. And we did have a brief conversation about that with respect to the update to the zoning bylaw. And the director and I discussed this at our section meeting earlier this week. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. That is good. Now we move on to the recommendations contained within Committee of the Whole report related to the Transportation and Environmental Services section be approved. And that would be Councillor LaRose and Councillor Mayat. Anyone wish to pull anything? Any concerns, questions? There being none, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. The recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report related to the Finance and Corporate Services section be approved. Moved by Councillor Saint-Amand, seconded by Councillor Mayat. Any questions, concerns? There being none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we have presentations.
Your Worship.
Yeah.
Sorry
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I think I interrupted your flow there when I had my comment with respect to the Planning and Development Services section.
Yes.
I don't know if we called a vote on it. We kind of quickly moved on to the next item, but the clerk could confirm if that's the case.
If we haven't called it, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Budiboncoeur. Okay, so then we move on to presentations, consideration of reports, special committees. There are none. Motions of which notice has been previously given, there is none. Notices of motion with council's leave, I would like to bring forward a motion, a notice of motion. And it is, whereas council received a letter from the North Simcoe Family Health Team dated November 16, 2021, and whereas the North Simcoe Family Health Team requested a contribution of $3,000 from each municipality to support the North Simcoe Family Health Team's virtual care clinic in partnership with the Virtual Family Physician Network, and whereas the request for contribution was not received in time to be considered during the 2022 budget process, and whereas council believes that all individuals of North Simcoe should have access to comprehensive primary care services, now therefore council approves the funding request of $3,000 to the North Simcoe Family Health Team in 2022 to be funded from the 2022 council contingency budget. Questions, concerns? There being none, a mover and a seconder. Councillor Cummings.
Sorry, Your Worship. Because it's your motion, you're technically the mover.
Yeah.
And then we do need a seconder, but then again, this item will be referred to the next meeting where the discussion will take place. Just as a reminder.
Yes, and I would ask for that seconder before we get into any questions or concerns. So do I have a seconder? Councillor Sinema. Okay. Now, Councillor Cummings, I saw your card up. Or do we put this off until February?
My question is exactly that, Your Worship, which is the next meeting that we will be discussing this at?
February.
So, yeah, okay.
February. Okay. So we're good with that. Okay, we move on to consideration of bylaws. Bylaws 2022-01 amended bylaw 2011-54 being a bylaw to provide for the maintaining of land in a clean and clear condition. 2022-02 being a bylaw to consolidate the traffic, parking, and use of highways regulations and to repeal bylaw number 2012-23 and all amendments do the same. 2022-03 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Ships Company of Penetanguishene, April 1, 2022 through to March 31, 2025. And bylaw 2022-04 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a berth age agreement with Landmark Cruises Inc. for tour and charter boat operations for the 2022 to 2026 seasons. And 2022-05 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2000-02 as amended of the Corporation of the Town of Penetanguishene, 95 and 97 Point Street. So that then a mover and a seconder that the Council of the Town of Penetanguishene introduced the following bylaws: 2022-01, 2022-02, 2022-03, 2022-04, 2022-05, and that bylaws be read a first time and deemed to be read a second time and a third time and carried. Mover and a seconder. Councillor LaRose and Councillor Cummings. And Deputy Mayor, you have your yellow card up there. You're muted. You're muted, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, it's too late. I did not support this initiative when it first came to council, and I just wanted to make that note, but it's too late. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then do call the all in favor. And that's one opposed.
Yes.
Okay. Question period from media and the public. I don't know if there's anybody out there that media or the public. Sarah?
No members of media or the public on the call.
Thank you. Well, now we come to announcements and inquiries, and I do have an announcement myself, and I'm sure you're all aware at this point in time of the passing of former Fire Chief Ted Light. And just to inform members of council that the flags at both the fire hall and the town hall have been lowered to half-mast and will remain such for a few days, recognizing Ted's contribution to the people in the community of Penetanguishene. Confirmation bylaw, that the confirmation bylaw 2022-06 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. A mover and a seconder. Councillor LaRose, Councillor Mayette, all in favor. And that is carried. And Councillor Cummings, adjournment. Moved by Councillor Cummings, we are adjourned. So now we will move on to our Committee of the Whole. And the Committee of the Whole meeting of January 12, 2022, and a call to order and approval of the agenda. So Committee of the Whole agenda, January 12, 2022, the recommended action is that the Committee of the Whole agenda for 2022 be approved as presented. Mover and a seconder. Councillor LaRose, Councillor Wedebanker, all in favor. That is carried. Anyone having a declaration of pecuniary interest may do so now or at the appropriate time. I see Councillor Sinema, you have a request to speak.
Just a declaration of pecuniary interest regarding 1145 Fuller Avenue. The item, it's 8B1, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Sinema. Moving on to presentations and delegations, all sections, there are none. The council information package, December 21 and January 5, 2022, that the council information package haven't been given due consideration, be received for information. Does anyone wish to pull any of these? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. In the first package, the number G 34 to 55, it was a letter in reference to Severn Sound Environmental Services from Tay Township. Oh, I don't think I have the right one. So, oh no, it's 28 and 29 on that list of things. Anyway, I just wanted to inform council that our director did meet with those at Tay Township. There was a lot of misunderstanding, and it is very complicated in how they do the funding process or the ask for support. So anyway, there has been dialogue, and I do believe that that has been settled. So
Good.
just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Good to hear. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. More so a comment regarding item 2 on the December 21st, 2021 section, letter of resignation. We were absolutely shocked that member Phil DeBrun, which most of you know, has submitted his resignation to the board. He was the provincial appointee. I just wanted to publicly recognize the work that Phil has done for the Police Services Board in the past year. He has been instrumental in a lot of change that's happened, a lot of positive change, and he has been a real key factor in some of the things that have been happening with the Police Services Board. He's moving on to teaching the board governance at Trent University, so I wish him well. We're going to miss him at the Police Services Board, but good luck to him. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much, Councillor Cummings. And yes, Phil has always given his all at anything that he's undertaken. So yes, good luck to Phil, and thank you. Councillor Sinema.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't want an item pulled, but I did want to bring it to council and the public's attention in regards to the second CIP package. The item number, where did it go? 6C. There was a Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities initiative regarding the membership and a 2021 report card. There's been mentioned previously that we haven't gotten much information, and they have provided us with quite a bit of information as to what they are doing. So just wanted to bring it.
Yes, we have been receiving a lot of information from them now, and that is a good thing. And we know it's important stuff that's happening and going on. So good. Now I did get a mover and a seconder, I believe, on that. So I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Section A, Transportation and Environmental Services. So I guess recommended action. Okay, then that would be
Councillor LaRose.
Councillor LaRose will have to do it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Number 6, we have under our consent agenda, we have one item, and the recommendation is that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration and be received for information. And it is our Water Quality Management System meeting minutes. So if I could have a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Mayette and Deputy Mayor. Is there any questions on those? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. We'll move down to B, matters for consideration. And our first one is Champlain Shores which is formerly Bay Moorings Marina Pre-Servicing Agreement. And the recommended action that the town of Penetanguishene enter into a pre-servicing agreement with Bay Moorings Marina Holdings, GP Inc. and Bay Moorings Holding Limited Partnership for the subdivision at 175 and 200 Fox Street upon the fulfillment of the requirements outlined in Section 3 of the agreement. And that the bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and the clerk to sign the pre-servicing agreement for this execution. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Vatabancourt, seconded by Councillor Sanama. Is there any questions on that? Councillor Vatabancourt.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Not a question, just a comment. It's great to see this on the agenda moving forward. I want to compliment staff and the developer for working hard to get it to this point, and look forward to seeing it move along further in the development approval process. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote on that. All in favor? And that is carried. Our second item down is a Scada management agreement. It's a three-year term, water and wastewater division. The recommended action that the staff be directed to enter into a maintenance agreement with Iramosa Engineering for the provision of Scada and instrumentation for the control engineering services for the water and wastewater divisions of Public Works Department for a term of 3 years, and that the service rates outlined in their new maintenance renewal letter dated December 15th, 2021 be approved for 2022, 2023, and 2024 calendar year, and that a bylaw for the maintenance agreement be brought forward for council's consideration. Can we get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Councillor Mayette, seconded by Councillor Vatabancourt. Does anybody have any questions for that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving down to C, that is the referrals. That the Transportation Environment Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. There are 2 items on there. Does anybody want any added to or taken from? Seeing none, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Sanama and Councillor Cummings. If we have no other questions for that, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Down to D, which is question period from the media and public. Seeing none, Your Worship, it's back to you.
Thank you, Councillor LaRose. We will then move on to the section B, Recreation and Community Services, and I will pass it over to Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 3 items on our consent agenda this evening. The Curling Club minutes, the Trails Committee minutes, and the fee waiver request for 2021. The recommended action here is that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Rose, second by Deputy Mayor. Any questions or concerns? Councillor Vatabancourt.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Just a comment in reading the Curling Club minutes. I know you and the other members of the Curling Club Board of Directors really wrestled with the issue of the mechanical issues at the Curling Club and came to that tough decision to not offer a season. And I just wanted to commend the board along with yourself in terms of your due diligence and looking at all options to try to salvage that piece of equipment and keep it operating. But unfortunately, that wasn't to be. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, it was a tough decision for sure. Any other questions or concerns? These 3 items? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item B is matters for consideration. We have one matter for consideration, and that is the waiving of the fee for CERT, or the Community Emergency Response Team. I call for, I'll read the recommended action, that the 100% fee waiver request for the use of the lounge by the Community Emergency Response Team be approved as requested for the purposes of conducting training meetings. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Sanama, second by Councillor Mayette. Are there any questions regarding these fee waiver? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We have next on our list is the referrals to upcoming agendas. We have none. Is there anyone wish to add any? Councillor Badawancourt, are you frozen, or? I think he's frozen. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saw a yes there, but you were frozen. All right. So if there are none, I don't see any need to read the
No.
motion. So next is the question from the media and the public. Sarah, do we have any questions from the media or public?
We do not have any questions.
That being said, back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. And now we will move on to Planning and Community Development Services, and I will pass it to Councillor Buddenbacher.
Thank you, Worship. Section C of your Committee of the Whole agenda, the Planning and Community Development Services section of the Coordinated Committee. We'll start with the consent agenda. There are 4 items on the consent agenda. Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes from November 22nd. Memo to Council, 4th quarter Planning and Community Development Department update. Committee of Adjustment notices of decision, 284 Watson Road. And memo to Council, Planning and Community Development Department 2021 year in review. Anybody want to pull any of those items? Yes, Councillor Cummings.
Sorry, that was just going to make a motion. Councillor Badawancourt.
Okay. So seeing that nobody wishes to pull, we have a motion to these items be received for information. Councillor Cummings, a seconder. Councillor Mayette, any comments? I have a comment. Just with respect to the Planning and Community Development Department, the item 4, 2021 year in review. It's quite impressive when you look at the number of development applications, number of building permit applications processed, the lots that are being considered for development in Penetanguishene. 2021 was a very, very busy year for development activities in the town. So I just wanted to make that comment. So any further comments? Okay, we've had a mover and seconder. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. So the first item under matters for consideration is proposed red line revisions for a draft plan of subdivision 1145 Fuller Avenue, St. Andrews Village. And I note that Councillor Sanama has pulled away, declared a pecuniary interest earlier on this particular item. So the recommended action is that the red line revisions to the draft plan of subdivision dated October 21st, 2021, Innovative Planning Solutions application file number pen-sub-2019-02 respecting 1145 Fuller Avenue be approved, and that the draft plan conditions for plan of subdivision application file number pen-sub-2019-02 1145 Fuller Avenue be approved in keeping with the staff report PL 2022-01. And finally, that the red line revisions and draft plan conditions be deemed minor under section 5147 of the Planning Act. Therefore, no notice be given of the changes. May I have a mover and seconder to put it on the floor? Councillor Mayette and Deputy Mayor Dubo. Our Director of Planning is here. Are there any questions on this particular report? Anybody has? Yes, Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, or I just want to be sure, when I read the report, all these red line revisions that are being made does not change the amount of lots going into the subdivision. Is that correct?
Through you, Councillor Vatabancourt, to Councillor LaRose, sorry. There is a minor tweak to the draft, to the number of lots, if I recall correctly. The numbers change in terms of which size of lots they have in there. So the number, I believe, overall is that 173 units total. So you're right, there's no change in any of the unit numbers, just changes in the number of units of certain sizes.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the director on this? Okay, we have it, the motion duly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Main Street Art Project, Phase 2, and the recommended action is that the call for public art proposals, project number 2022-01, be approved for public release as per staff report PL-2022-02. That includes a budget of $50,000, all inclusive for the project, and sets the location as the boulevard in front of 122 Main Street. So that's the recommendation. May I have a mover and a seconder, and then I'll turn it over to the director. She can give us a brief highlight. So moved by Deputy Mayor Dubo, seconded by Councillor Cummings. And Madam Director, could you please give us a quick summary of your report?
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Vatabancourt. And I'm sure if there's any questions, Deputy Mayor Dubo can answer them. So brief summary, this is an ad hoc committee of council that dealt with the first project, the Land of the White Rolling Sands piece that's on Main Street. Late last year, we relaunched the group, the ad hoc committee, and discussed the phase 2 of the project. There has been some monies allocated over previous budgets into a streetscaping reserve that is being allocated to an art project. And so we discussed that as a committee and brought forward this report for a second project. So with that, it would be located on Point Street in front of the Shoppers Drug Mart that's there now. There's the patio stoned area and then a space further back that's landscaped with a tree. We'd be looking in that general area. Obviously, we have some locates to do and some further details in working with an artist. But what the proposal is with council's endorsement would be to put a call for art out to the public and receive proposals from artists in the community, which we would bring through the ad hoc committee and eventually to council for final approval. Hopefully that's a good summary for the committee. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Madam Director. Any questions of the director? Seeing I've got two, Councillor Rose and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more of a question to council. I'm just wondering if with everything that's going on in the town right now, which has gone on for the last 16, 18, 20 months, when I look forward in our agenda to our next item where we're short approximately $25,000 for our insurance, I'm wondering if this is the right time to be doing a project that isn't a must. It's more of a want, not a need. So at this point, I would be voting not in favor to carry on with this right now. I do think the $50,000, some of it could stay, but some of it could probably be appropriated a little bit better at this point.
Thank you, Councillor, for your comments. Madam Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rose, for your comments. This is a project that council has approved in the past. It is a continuation of our art project. I think it's a little bit of a happy thing to do. And I recognize certainly that COVID has created a lot of situations and things that, make us not happy about having to stay in and all that sort of thing. But I think this project had a lot of discussion, and we do have the money in the budget. The money was there, not in our current budget, but it was held over, and I do feel that we need to continue this project. One art piece on our main street, it does attract people, and I think I would certainly hope that council would support this initiative. The ad hoc committee certainly went through a lot of discussion to have this project. So I do hope that those members present will support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Councillor Mayotte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sort of agree with Councillor Rose. I don't think it's the time and appropriate to do this. Between her budget, we put it through with the OPP. You have to take money out of reserve. We're short, like with the next item that comes up, we're short about 25,000. And even if we do put this beautiful artwork, we want to put it up there. If the COVID continues, we won't have any visitors. They'll be all staying at home. We'll be locked down. And I prefer to put it aside or take half of it or something and pay for the insurance, which we need. Desperately need the insurance for the town. Well, we have to have it. We don't have any choice. So I will be voting against this myself. Thank you.
Any other comments with respect to this matter? I see Councillor Sanama and then his worship. Councillor Sanama.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadavancourt. Just a question. Is it possible to defer this for a period of time? I certainly take note of the comments by Councillor Mayotte and Councillor Rose, with the extra costs that we're facing right at the moment. And I certainly appreciate all the work that's gone in with the ad hoc committee. But I'm feeling a little torn as to whether this is the right time to be doing this. I don't want to see it disappear altogether. So is there a protocol, or is there a method of having it postponed for a period or brought forward, in 6 months?
Councillor Sanama, thank you very much for the question. I'll ask either our director or the deputy mayor to respond.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabancourt. Yeah, certainly. I mean, we're at the liberty of what council wishes to do with this project. If you wish to defer it months, years, we're at your will. I would say one of the things we were trying to take advantages of with this time of year is the construction season. To install it would be during hopefully the summer months. And that seems to play a little bit of a role in the seasons of when we can do things like this. But I mean, we can do whatever council likes.
Thank you, Madam Director. I saw the Deputy Mayor's card. Were you going to add to that answer, Madam Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I would like to. There are opportunities for funding. So if we have the project laid out, we can make application to the Main Street project will have a second phase, and there may be other opportunities as well. But as we know, we need the project in a phase that can move forward. So again, I certainly would ask my fellow councillors to support this project. It's something that we started back in 2019. And I think with everything that's going on, this could very well be a bit of a highlight for our Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor, your worship, and then Councillor Mayotte.
You're on mute, Doug.
There we go. Yes, as I indicated, I will be supporting this motion. You know, when is there ever a right time for many things? And I know for a fact that this committee has worked very hard and have been very diligent on this whole issue. It is for an improvement to the municipality, and we have an increased amount of dollars that we've received from the grant, and I know that staff will probably decide where and what should be done with it, but at the same time, it was a considerable amount, so that it, if needed, could 24,000 of that could certainly be used for the insurance increase. But our treasurer has already indicated that we could find it from the year-end surplus or the town's insurance reserve. So I don't see why we would bump this off and put it off at a later date. So in all, I will be supporting it.
Thank you, Worship. So we've had good discussion. Councillor Marriott, you had some comments?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
So there was some discussion about those that might be opposed, and then there was a comment from Councillor Sanama about a deferral. In order for that to be actioned, it has to be moved and seconded, and then put on the floor. It would take precedent. Councillor Sanama, is that something you wanted to move, or you're just putting it out there?
I was basically just putting it out there, Councillor Vadabancourt. I think now would be a good time to go ahead with the vote and see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so no further comments, no further discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? We have 3 opposed. The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to referrals, we have 3 that are listed there. My understanding is that the second referral, regulation and licensing options for short-term rentals, was dealt with by the earlier council meeting, so that could come off. But the Community Development Fund and the Beaulieu Drive road options would stay on. Are there any other items that anybody wants to refer or to speak to? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item on the referrals list has not been dealt with. I believe we sent the planning department back for a report to come to council, so I don't believe it has been handled yet regarding short-term rentals.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Yes, there was a report there, but maybe it's now still with staff in terms of to be brought forward. Perhaps I'll ask the director if there's any items that can come off the referral list, or is it does it still stand as it is?
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadabancourt. Actually, I was thinking the Community Development Reserve Policy Review. I think it's been discussed at council either November or December, and so I think that one could be removed.
Okay, so that one has been dealt with, if I understand. So that one could come off. The other 2 could stay on. So I'll read the motion that the Planning and Community Development Services section endorse the following additional existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff: regulation and licensing options for short-term rentals, Beaulieu Drive road options. The other Community Development Fund will come off. Any further discussion? We have a mover, please. Councillor Cummings, seconder, Councillor Sanama. All those in favor? Motion carries. Question period from the media and the public. Don't hear any, so I'm going to turn it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Vadabancourt. And we now move on to Finance and Corporate Services, and I pass it to Councillor Sanama.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. On the consent agenda, we do have a couple of items. The recommended action that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. The first one is a Police Services Board meeting minutes of September 13th, 2021. The second one is the Huronia Airport Task Force final report. I would like to have the CAO make comment on the second item. So whether we do a mover and a seconder and then get his comments. That's good. So Councillor Mayotte, Councillor Cummings. And then if we can call on our CAO, Mr. Lees, to make comments about the airport task force report, please, and thank you.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Just with respect to the airport task force final report, you will see on the agenda, there's as Chair Sanama has mentioned, there are a number of documents that are listed on that item. Ultimately, this is in response to direction from the ownership group of the airport. Council will recall the beginning of 2021, direction was provided to create a task force, which was comprised of the airport board as well as the CAOs, or in one case, an alternate at the 3 municipalities. The task force met monthly throughout the year of 2021, and I would actually suggest there's been more than monthly meetings with a few different kind of subcommittees that met. What I wanted to share with committee is this is being provided for your information, and it does tie directly to the first referral item on the referral list. But the intent and what we'll be proceeding with is a joint council meeting amongst the 3 municipalities, which form the ownership group of Penetanguishene, Midland, and Tiny in the coming months. So we'll be looking to schedule a joint virtual meeting where this will be presented, and obviously councils will have an opportunity to ask questions and get additional information, with the goal then being of bringing it back to our respective municipalities for some additional. So that's really what I wanted to share with this particular item, Madam Chair, and thanks for passing it over to me.
Councillor, thank you very much, Mr. CAO. And Councillor LaRose, if you'd like to comment, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to let council know that our CAO was on our task force and still continues to be. He took a very large leadership role, helped us out tremendously, and has been one of the main organizers behind it. There's been a ton of work done, and a lot of it couldn't have been done without him. So we'd just like to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that information. And if we could have a vote then for accepting the information on the consent agenda. All those in favor? And so moved. Thank you. So under matters for consideration, the 2022 insurance renewal. Finance 2022-01, the recommended action that Finance 2022-01, 2022 insurance renewal report be received for information, and that the 2022 budget shortfall of $24,415 be funded from the 2022 year-end surplus, if any, or from the town's insurance reserve. And finally, that a request for proposal be issued for 2023 to 2027. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Mayotte, seconded by Councillor Vadvancourt. Any discussion? Questions? Oh, Councillor Vadvancourt.
Thank you. It was a very good report. As the Director of Finance outlined, this is a common trend, I should say, across the municipal sector, these types of insurance increases. It's very unfortunate. In the report, it outlines Penetanguishene's experience over the last few years, and it's unbelievable how high insurance rates have gone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vadvancourt. Yes, I reiterate those comments. Great report, sad information, but it is the facts. So if we can have the call for the vote, please. All those in favor? And thank you very much. So moved. Referrals to the upcoming agenda and staff. Referrals now, the Huroney Airport Commission, the roadmap Councillor LaRose, I'll ask you, although like all the information is here, I know that there will be another meeting coming forward or being made available to the three councils. Do you want that item left on, or is it good to come off?
I would say now that with the final report that we have tonight, it can come off. If anybody has any other questions as it gets closer to our joint meeting time, they can let me or the CAO know, and we'll make sure. But for now, yeah, it can come off.
Okay, thank you. And the only other comment is with the OPP policing costs, it is ongoing. Should we be changing that expected date on that referral item? Just CAO?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, I'm what I might suggest is that we could just keep it as ongoing because it really is an ongoing matter. We might remove the reference to Q3, I believe, but I would suggest that we keep it as ongoing because it really is an ongoing matter for in front of council.
Yeah, most definitely. We don't want to take it off, but thank you very much. Okay, so the referrals, that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. Future agenda items would be the OPP policing costs, CNCC recovery as an ongoing item, and we can remove the Huronia Airport Commission roadmap update. If I could have a mover and a seconder, please. Mover Councillor Mayotte, seconder Councillor LaRose. All those in favor? Very good, thank you so much. Question period from the media and the public. Don't see anybody's hands up. Oh, Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I realize I'm not the media or the public, but I thought this might be opportunistic. Just to add on to Councillor Vaccination had a good question at the start of the meeting, and I just wanted to share a few additional points with respect to what we're doing to mitigate risk to business continuity. A couple other things that we are doing that I didn't think of, and my apologies. We have had a couple situations where we've had to redeploy some staff from one department to another department. So that's another thing that we're constantly assessing in terms of staff absences. The other thing I would say is we are exploring the potential of contracting third parties. You know, should we really be in a pinch and not have staff to be able to provide services? That's an option that we will continue to kind of keep open. The last thing I would say is there's a County of Simcoe Mutual Assistance Agreement that probably most members of council are aware of, that was put in place in 2017, where we can call upon our friends at other municipalities to help us out. So that, for example, was just brought to our control group this past week as a refresher, because it was brought a year ago to our control group as well. So those are some additional things just to add on to what I said earlier. And I thought it was opportunistic to share that with council then now versus waiting. The other thing I just want to acknowledge is the assistance from the union. We've been very fortunate to have full cooperation from the union, particularly with the recent bind that we were in from a service delivery perspective as a result of staff absences. So really want to acknowledge the help and the assistance the union has provided. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to go a little bit outside of the intent of this particular agenda item.
No problem. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. And I shall turn the meeting back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Santama, and that concludes our Committee of the Whole meeting for this evening. So with that, we will call it as an